like, where is the mic? Where is the mic? At one point she yelled, give me a mic, and they didn't give it to her.
Prince Harry is standing tall, delivering a carefully prepared speech.
Hi everybody.
Every eye in the room locked on him. The atmosphere is formal, respectful, and serious.
And there's this guy with the purple jacket is trying to block her from going on stage.
Woof.
Until suddenly, Meghan Markle strides onto the stage without warning. No cue, no invitation. Just a bold move that leaves the audience holding its breath.
And she goes around him, she even ignores him.
Wow.
She ignores the guy.
Again, I have to be careful what I say, but...
Harry stiffens. He turns his head just enough to acknowledge her, but this time, he doesn't hand over the microphone.
Now, Harry has full control of the mic. When Meghan walked on stage, she could have said, oh, here's my wife, and hand over the microphone. Did he do it? No.
The crowd watches in stunned silence, realizing they are witnessing something no royal press release will ever admit, a public clash between the Duke and Duchess themselves.
What?
This guy right behind Harry, the same guy that rejected to give her the mic last year, is looking at her and he doesn't care.
For years, the narrative was simple. Harry gave Meghan the spotlight every time. He stepped aside so she could shine.
Like I curtsied as though I was like, pleasure to meet you, Your Majesty. Like, was that okay?
It's really quite sad.
But not tonight. This moment flips their dynamic upside down. And the reaction, not the applause Meghan expected. Not even polite claps, just an icy silence so heavy it feels like a warning shot.
You keep saying Meghan Markle, you know I'm Sussex now. I like working hard.
But here's the real kicker. What happened on that stage was only the beginning, because the story didn't end when Meghan walked off. It detonated a chain reaction of humiliation, media manipulation, and whispers of betrayal that followed them long after the lights dimmed. And if you think the silence of that crowd was brutal, wait until you hear what insiders are saying about the fallout behind closed doors. Stay with me, because what comes next isn't just awkward. It's the clearest sign yet that Harry and Meghan's carefully crafted facade is beginning to crack wide open.
Insiders are revealing to me the true story of how Meghan Markle failed.
Do you think Harry refusing to give Meghan the mic was a sign of him finally pushing back? Drop your thoughts below. Prince Harry was in the middle of a carefully structured speech, his tone steady, his body language calm. Then, out of nowhere, Meghan Markle made her move. She stepped onto the stage without being announced, walking straight toward him with the kind of confidence that demanded attention. But the room didn't gasp in admiration. It froze in confusion. For a moment, even Harry looked caught off guard, his eyes narrowing just slightly as he realized what was happening. Meghan placed her hand on his back, signaling she wanted the spotlight. It was the same gesture that in past appearances had always ended with Harry instantly passing her the microphone, but not this time. His grip tightened, his posture straightened, and instead of stepping aside, he continued speaking. That tiny refusal, barely noticeable unless you were watching closely, was like a lightning strike. It wasn't just defiance, it was a shift in their dynamic.
And she's going around causing trouble, looking for a mic. Where is the mic? With that absolutely manic smile on her face.
Right there under the glare of cameras. The energy in the room changed instantly. What should have been a smooth, united moment suddenly felt awkward, like watching an argument unfold in public without words. Meghan forced a smile, her hand lingering just long enough to make it clear she wasn't ready to back off. But Harry's focus remained locked on the crowd, determined not to break. In that single exchange, everything felt different. The balance of power had shifted, and the audience sensed it. The room didn't erupt with applause. There were no polite claps, no murmurs of approval, not even a sympathetic chuckle. Instead, the crowd froze in absolute silence. Meghan stood beside Harry, her smile fixed, waiting for the acknowledgement she assumed would come. Seconds stretched like minutes. The longer the pause lasted, the heavier the tension became. It was the kind of silence that screamed louder than any booze ever could. Harry pressed on with his speech, his voice steady, as though determined to ignore the awkwardness unfolding inches from him. Meghan, however, lingered in that spotlight, visibly expecting some kind of recognition, a nod, a cheer, a single person willing to break the tension. But nothing happened.
See, there's Harry telling her to back off. You see his hand here, below his big face, pointing at her, telling her to stay back.
The audience wasn't hostile. It was worse. They were indifferent. And indifference, especially in the world of royalty, is the cruelest rejection. Finally, with no reaction to hold on to, Meghan shifted her weight, glanced at Harry, and slowly retreated toward the sidelines. The walk back wasn't long, but it might as well have been a mile. Every step away from the podium looked like a concession, a quiet acknowledgement that the crowd had chosen its side, and it wasn't hers. Observers in the room later described the air as ice cold, the kind of atmosphere where everyone sensed something had gone wrong but no one dared move. Meghan's departure wasn't planned, and Everyone knew it, but the silence wasn't the end. It was only the start of the humiliation. By the next morning, the awkward silence from that stage had all but vanished, at least in mainstream coverage. Major outlets didn't air the unedited footage. Instead, glossy still shots appeared. Meghan smiling confidently, Harry standing beside her, both looking perfectly in sync. To the casual viewer, it seemed like nothing unusual had happened. The tension erased, the rejection invisible. What the cameras truly captured was carefully trimmed out, replaced with polished images designed to rewrite the narrative.
It is absolutely disgusting, this woman, in my very humble opinion, and that people are still not getting it. It's beyond the pale.
Social media, however, told a different story. Clips surfaced online showing the raw, unfiltered moment, Meghan stepping up, the crowd freezing, Harry refusing to surrender the microphone. These short videos spread like wildfire, drawing millions of views within hours. The contrast was impossible to ignore. Official outlets presented harmony, while uncut recordings screamed discord. Critics accused the media of shielding Meghan's reputation, protecting her from what could have been a devastating public relations blow. Supporters argued the silence was exaggerated, a misread of body language. Yet the fact remained, the truth had been split in two. One version lived on television, the other burned across social feeds. And this duality wasn't accidental. Royal coverage has always been curated, but this time the editing didn't just soften the story, it inverted it. The question became unavoidable. If this moment was rewritten, how many others have been hidden from view? Because the deeper you look, the more obvious it becomes. This wasn't just about one speech, it was about control. Why do you think the media cropped out Meghan's awkward moment, protecting her image or hiding the truth? Share your take. What happened on that stage wasn't just an awkward interruption, it was a window into a deeper fracture.
Here's what I would say about that. I think it's very important to shift this idea that play the opposite and make sure you can be taken seriously. My point in all of this is that no matter what you look like, you should be taken seriously.
For years, Harry was seen as the man who bent over backward to shield Meghan, stepping aside to give her the spotlight. But in that instant, he drew a boundary in front of thousands, and it signaled something bigger: resistance. That single refusal hinted at a power shift not just in their marriage, but in how the world now perceives them. At the same time, Harry's royal status adds another layer of confusion. Officially, he's been stripped of certain titles and duties, yet at select international events, he's still introduced as Prince Harry, with the kind of reverence reserved for working royals. These mixed signals create a strange limbo. He's neither fully in nor fully out, and Meghan, standing beside him, feels even more like an outsider trying to force her way back into relevance. This ambiguity isn't accidental. Insiders whisper that Buckingham Palace deliberately keeps Harry's role unclear, dangling recognition when convenient, withdrawing it when not. It maintains suspense, keeps headlines alive, and ensures the Sussexes remain part of the conversation, whether they like it or not. The stage clash only underscored that tension. Harry pushing back against Meghan in public raised questions the palace didn't need to ask out loud. Is Harry starting to choose the crown over his wife, or is he simply tired of being overshadowed?
Again, I have to be careful what I say, but that I won't be able to show, my children my homeland.
Either way, the cracks are no longer hidden. Behind the polished photos and public smiles, the fiercest battles aren't about speeches or microphones. They're about family. Sources close to the couple claim Harry desperately wants his children to experience pieces of the tradition he grew up with. He's spoken about Eton, the elite British institution attended by generations of royals, imagining Archie walking the same halls he once did. For Harry, it's not just schooling, it's heritage, a connection to the life he left behind. Meghan, however, reportedly has no interest in returning her children to the UK. She prefers raising them in California, far from the rigid royal bubble. But the disagreement doesn't stop at geography. Insiders whisper that Meghan has blocked discussions of British schooling entirely, unless, as one source put it, appropriate concessions are made, financial, security, or otherwise. To some, it looks less like negotiation and more like leverage. This tug of war has become symbolic of their relationship. Meghan appears to hold the upper hand in private decisions, steering the family's direction with firm resolve. Harry, once content to follow, is now showing signs of pushback. Friends describe him as increasingly frustrated, quietly longing for ties to his past, while feeling cornered by Meghan's firm refusals. The irony? Their children have become pawns in a larger struggle between tradition and independence, loyalty and rebellion.
Harry and Meghan specifically told media at the time of Archie's birth that they didn't want to give him a title.
What?
Because they wanted him to live a life as normal as possible. Cut to Oprah Winfrey interview where Meghan sits down and accuses the palace of not giving her son a title because of his skin color. That was so damaging for the royal family at the time.
But apparently for me, that doesn't matter.
And while the crowd only saw a microphone snub, those who know the couple insist the real power struggle is happening far from the cameras. If Meghan's sudden stage entry was bold, what followed was brutal. Event organizers made a quiet but unmistakable adjustment. Meghan was kept off the spotlight for the rest of the evening. Instead of her usual place front and center, she was escorted to a side seat, positioned just close enough to be seen but far enough to remind everyone she wasn't leading. It wasn't a formal announcement, but the message couldn't have been clearer. Her role had been downgraded. The optics only worsened. magnificent. Observers noted her designer gown, meant to dazzle, looked strangely ill-fitted under the harsh lights. Social media commentators described her expression as tight and her smile as strained. While Harry continued mingling with guests, Meghan sat stiffly, clapping at the right moments but rarely engaged by those around her. For a woman used to commanding the stage, the silence from the crowd and the indifference from organizers landed like a quiet humiliation. Critics seized on every detail: the forced laughter, the awkward posture. Even the way her jewelry caught the camera felt like an echo of past glamour rather than the real thing. Supporters tried to frame it as a simple oversight, but witnesses knew better. This was no accident. The shift was subtle but devastating.
I truly believe that when he met Meghan, she whispered into his ear, a 36-year-old mature woman whispered into his ear, "Harry, you and I could change the world."
For the first time, Meghan wasn't simply ignored. She was sidelined. And as the night wore on, it became clear that the audience wasn't interested in helping her reclaim control. But the palace, as always, had its own strategy. While Meghan struggled with the sting of being sidelined, the palace played a very different game. Contradictory headlines began rolling out within hours. Some papers framed Harry as a respected prince, treated with the same formality as when he lived in the UK. Others doubled down on the narrative that he was a man stripped of titles, cut off from royal privilege. This deliberate inconsistency wasn't sloppy reporting, it was strategy. By keeping Harry's role ambiguous, the palace ensures constant speculation. Every event becomes a guessing game. Will he be introduced with honor or ignored as an outsider? That uncertainty fuels endless debates, sells papers, and guarantees the Sussexes remain part of the royal conversation, whether the family welcomes them or not. Meghan's presence in this equation becomes both an asset and a liability. She attracts clicks and global interest, yet her polarizing image makes every misstep headline-worthy. Critics argue Buckingham Palace has learned from past scandals. Instead of pushing the Sussexes entirely away, they've chosen to keep them dangling on the edge. Relevant enough to maintain public attention, distant enough to avoid real influence. It's the same tactic once used with Sarah Ferguson, not fully inside the fold, but never completely cut off.
Harry came from this very busy world of the royal family with lots to do. Even in his spare time, he could play polo and do whatever he wanted. He sat in Montecito, twiddling his thumbs, thinking, what do I do next? What is my role? Where is my work?
For Meghan, this blurred status is a nightmare. It means every appearance is scrutinized, every rumor amplified. For Harry, it's a prison of ambiguity, neither free from his past nor fully embraced by it. Together, they're caught in a cycle where the institution and the media profit from their drama, while their public image frays piece by piece. And if that weren't damaging enough, the fallout from the stage clash pushed their fragile dynamic into uncharted, dangerous territory. And just like that, what started as a routine speech turned into a public turning point. Meghan stepping onto that stage wasn't just a surprise, it was a revelation. The silence of the crowd, Harry's refusal to hand her the microphone, and the way the media buried the truth all exposed something much bigger, the cracks no one was supposed to see. If this is how raw and tense things get in front of cameras, imagine what's happening behind palace walls. The story is far from over, and the next chapter is even more shocking. And if you think this was dramatic, wait until you see what we uncovered about Meghan's hidden family twist that left Harry completely speechless. That piece connects directly to what you just watched, and trust me, you'll want to know it all. So don't stop here. Watch the full story by clicking that video next. You've been watching Star Spotlight, where the royals aren't just reported, they're exposed, because the crown hides more than it shows.